Alright, welcome back, folks. Happy Wednesday. Sheepdog Smokey here, and I wanted to revisit a couple of topics I've gone over in past videos because thinking about it and rereading such in the last couple weeks, I don't really think I went as in depth as I could have. The first one is Robert Heinlein, very famously wrote several books, but the biggest one in recent years has been Starship Troopers. Not too long ago, made into a blockbuster movie, which pretty amazingly depicted his idea of society from the book. Put succinctly, there are no more sovereign nations. There is the Federation, and you are a citizen of the Federation, or you're a civilian. And that's it. What the movie doesn't go into enough detail on is how you become a citizen. The movie, of course, focuses on the flashy. What is the big bad for the movie and how do they defeat it? So naturally, in the movie, it's all about mobile infantry and the fleet against the bug menace. And by the end of the movie, things are kind of resolved. They've won and so on and so forth. But if you really go over the book with a fine-tooth comb, anyone can become a citizen. A blind, deaf, mute can become a citizen. And they'll find a way for him to serve the Federation. If you are crippled, they'll find a way for you to serve the Federation. It could be as a bookkeeper in the Hall of Records. It doesn't matter. If you want to serve the Federation, they will find you a spot. At Blind, Deaf, Mute, it could be a research project on different kinds of caterpillars, and they have him quantifying caterpillars by touch. I mean, literally anything. So it basically goes to the extreme of only those who have served in the government in some capacity may vote, may have a voice in the government. Some years ago, I actually put forward a question of should it be that way. Now, at the time, it had been about 20 years since I read Starship Troopers. And I had, well, not that long, probably 10 years since I'd read the book. And I had just gotten done with my time in the fire department. And I had put, I did not serve in the military. And granted, on social media at that time, it was pretty much just Facebook. But I said, what are your thoughts on this? Realizing that not having served in the military, I would not be considered a citizen. And someone did bring up that I had been a civil servant, I had been a firefighter. I would have been a citizen. My friends from high school who had gone into police or EMS would be citizens. So my father and I would be citizens while my siblings, nephews and nieces, if they don't serve, and my mother would not. My grandparents who were still alive at the time would not. And it never really went further than just people voting yes or no. There was no discussion. But I don't believe that that is the way for society to run to benefit society. And yes, I realize it's a very circular statement, but you have a lot of people who, for some reason or another, are not going to serve in a governmental or civil or military role. They're not going to run for office. They're not going to be a policeman, a firefighter, an EMT. They're not going to go into the military or any of those things, but they still are a part of society as a whole and still deserve to have a voice. Very much the heart behind the Constitution and the Voting Rights Act, the Equal Rights Act, votes for women, women's suffrage, and so on throughout the years. I have never said that America has always been a perfect nation. We have darkness in our past, and we have faced it. In 1860 to 1865, bloody war was fought. And in 1865, slavery was abolished. And thus began the 155 years to the point where we are today, where we still have a long way to go. And we are so far beyond it that no one alive today knows anyone personally or knew anyone personally that was ever a slave. It's just that simple. Anyone who had been a slave at any point in their life would have been 80 when my grandfather got home from World War II. Their grandchildren would be grandparents by now. So that is one of the contentions behind a lot of debates, is people go back to an issue that has no bearing on today. It's very simple. But beyond that, you have a need to know what people in society, what the teachers and the lawyers and the doctors, and the ditch diggers and the burger flippers and the IT workers and the singers and the painters and the retail workers all are feeling, what they're encountering. The problem is, when you get into this, it gets emotional. And that is one of the things that Heinlein, with his society of if you serve, you're a citizen, if you don't, you're not, somewhat removed from government. There was no more government conversation about certain topics. And that's not a good thing. Honestly, it's not. We need to hold people in power accountable. But we don't need to simply demand our way be the only way forward. Sadly, I don't see that happening in my lifetime. The second topic, and I've talked about this limitedly with regards to other videos that I've made, is a lot of kind of why I wear this shirt. Why Orwell is one of the authors that my giveaway will include. And it's very simple. I've read 1984. I never want to live in that world. And unfortunately, that's very much where a lot of the loudest voices would take us. You see, when you get rid of the police, there's a vacuum. That vacuum has to be filled. Nature abhors a vacuum. Simple fact. So, the meme that I mentioned the other day, where police are defunded and abolished, the elites, the socialists have private security. The masses demand private security. Socialists invent the police. The problem with that is that in the interim, while only those in power have private security, society will devolve to a point where when the socialists say we can protect you, it will very much be a totalitarian state. I have read 1984, Fahrenheit 451, Brave New World, Animal Farm, Starship Troopers, multiple times. I go back to them because I'll want to talk about a certain aspect of the book, or I'll just think about something. And if you have seen the 1984 adaptation of 1984 with William Hurt, it is an extremely bleak society, but it is very much controlled. William Hurt's character is employed by the government, as is everyone. And his job is basically to edit the news. They'll decide we're no longer at war with East Asia. We're now at war with another nation. And suddenly, you've never been at war with East Asia. You've always been at war with this other country. They'll decide they need a hero, so they'll find someone who died years and years ago. They'll unperson them and use them as a war hero. Rallies are held, and they are compulsory, where they show you video of people who have been captured while conspiring against Oceania. And people are encouraged to hurl insults and scream their hearts out. There's a video on YouTube called 2 Minutes of Hate. It's one of those scenes. And 1984 has been talked about, it has been discussed, it has been dissected, it's been parodied to the point where everyone on Earth should know the book, and sadly they don't. Books like 1984, Animal Farm, Brave New World, Fahrenheit 451 were required reading not that long ago for high school students. I remember that I was required in 10th grade to read Animal Farm. 11th grade was 1984. 12th grade was the torturous Brave New World. Huxley did not speak the English we do today. I had to read them all. I had to give a report on all of them. I don't know that any student in high school today would even know what those books are. And it's very sad because those books very exactly illustrate and depict the world that socialism always leads to. For crying out loud, it's on the cover of the DVD case for 1984. INGSOC, English Socialism. A running question through the movie is, have you found any razor blades? And people who want to write in a journal have to hide. Cameras are everywhere to ensure that you don't oppose the party. It's frightening. It is a horrific world. And yet we have people who seem to be clamoring for us to live in a world just like that. Granted, many of them, knowingly or not, are actually pushing for Huxley's world, where the vast majorities are controlled through drugs and consumerism. Paid enough to be able to buy whatever you want, because it's all produced by the government, which is paying you, which is paying the people that are producing the raw materials, so the money is useless. But everyone thinks they're doing amazingly well. Don't repair that shirt, replace it. Go on a Soma vacation. And then there are just pockets on the planet of people deemed backward because they still have religion, or they still have the nuclear family, and they're mocked, derided, and they're studied as if they are animals. It's sad, it really is. In all of these, though, be it Fahrenheit 451, Animal Farm, Brave New World, or 1984, those who are running the show never have to abide by their own rules. Sound familiar? One need only look at prohibition during the early part of the 20th century, 1900s, to see that politicians breaking the law is nothing new. Read The Great Gatsby. The rich and the powerful had all the booze they wanted. The common people had to sneak around to speakeasies run by very shady characters to find a drink. It did nothing to curtail alcoholism, violence, which is the core of the demand for prohibition, or crime, or anything. In fact, it made crime get worse because all of a sudden, all of these small-time gangsters could make it big by just running a speakeasy. And when prohibition was lifted, the criminals just found a new enterprise. All of a sudden, their speakeasies were legal. So then they moved to gambling or prostitution or illegal narcotics, racketeering, anything and everything they could get their fingers into. I'm not saying that anything that is a societal ill, like racketeering, gambling, or things like that, which are very much societal ills in areas of the country still today. I'm not saying just legalize everything. Crying out loud, I did a video several months ago where, not sure which country it was, but it was a Central American country, legalized gang membership. And in that video, I posed the thought that doing so is pointless. Being a member of a gang is not anything that ever should be illegal. You're a member of a club. Motorcycle clubs are very much gangs today. A lot of them, though, are not. Look at Bikers Against Child Abuse, BACA. They are a motorcycle club, just like Hells Angels is a motorcycle club. That's where all similarities end. They ride bikes, they're big, mean-looking people, they've got tattoos, they wear leather. That's it. That's the only similarity to other motorcycle clubs that are not always on the right side of the law. Bikers Against Child Abuse simply does not engage in criminal activity. In fact, they are the exact opposite. They protect victims of childhood abuse. They're the big, mean-looking teddy bear angel that's in court with children as they testify, that show up to walk them to school and let them know they'll be protected. That is membership, okay? It's what you do after you join the gangs in that Central American country or the gangs in Los Angeles or New York. Simply being a member is not anything that is illegal. It's what the club does. That is not robbery, prostitution, extortion, assault, destruction of property, all of these things. Those are all still illegal. So it's not something I'm going to say is just legalize everything, because that solves nothing. What needs to happen is education. Very much books like this, books like 1984, Brave New World, Fahrenheit 451, Animal Farm. Those need to be required reading again. To Kill a Mockingbird has been pulled from many school districts' required reading because it's offensive. Famously, in the Starship Troopers movie, one of the scientists says he finds the idea of a bug that can think offensive. You have no right to not be offended. Being offended is often a cause for change. If something offends you, and it is something that you feel extremely strongly about, for example, I find it offensive that people can pass their courses, as they did when I was in high school and college, without doing the work. And I went to my professors in college. I didn't really care in high school, but I do now. I went to my professors in college and I said, what should I do? I'm watching people basically cheat. And I was told of basically a few options I had. None of them really good because they'd been in place for decades and nothing worked. Nothing was done. The administration didn't care because they were getting their tuition and their fees and selling books. Until I can actually become a part of that system, I can't really take action against it. But that is one of the driving factors toward my desire to continue my education to a master's and then a doctoral degree, where I could then teach. In my class, you don't do the work, you don't get the grade. It's that simple, and it will always be that simple. I will not treat anyone differently. Everyone will be assigned the work. Everyone will be told of the deadline. Everyone will be expected to turn in the work. The work will be graded, and then the grades will be passed out. No discrimination, no bias. As I move up through those ranks, and maybe into administration to a position where I could influence other classes, then I would be in a position to do so. That's a driving force, that being offended that it still happens today. But it should not be a driving force to just demand obedience. That way lies destruction, and it always will. I don't know, I've talked long enough. This one is a longer video, I know. So let me know what you think. As always, be civil. We're here to discuss, dissent, and debate. Not scream and yell and insult like toddlers. So please do so. As always, please like and share the video so that it affects the algorithm and so that the conversation is widened. And remember to subscribe and turn on notifications so that you're a part of the channel when I do the giveaway at 500, 1,000, and 1,500 subscribers. Until next time.